Welcome, everybody, to a special third episode of Max Rice Tonight. I'm here with State Senate candidate for the Illinois 10th District, Anthony Beckman. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody out there is doing well, staying safe, staying healthy, and still getting out there and getting your sunlight and vitamin D in you.
Absolutely. Well, my first question for you is a lot of people, they're scared to run for office because they'll say it'd be too much work, or I'm afraid of the feedback that I'll get. What do you say to people that are kind of on the fence for running for office?
I say if you actually have a passion and you want to get into politics for the right reason and not the wrong reasons of power status, money, elitist status, I am not getting in for any of those reasons. I'm actually, different than most candidates. I'm not a politician. I'm actually a public servant. I'm a police officer. So, what I do for my community is what I want to do when hopefully I become senator. I actually want to go to Springfield and change things up. I want to fight the Chicago political Democratic machine. I want to go against hopefully Pritzker for the first 2 years of my term, which hopefully he won't be in there after that. But I actually want to go to Springfield for the right reasons, and that's fighting for the working class people, and that being Democrat, Republicans, and independents. I want to fight for everybody. I want to show, obviously, I want all the Republican support, which I should get, but I want to show moderate Democrats that I'm one that's going to be fighting for them. I'm going to be fighting for lowering taxes. I'm going to be fighting for these crazy legislative bills that have taken place, over the decades in Illinois. So that's what I would be going to Springfield for. So, if you want to go into politics for the right reason, I would suggest don't worry about the backlash because you're doing it for the right purpose.
Right on. So there's a lot of corruption. Everyone agrees in Springfield, and a lot of lack of goodwill because of the corruption. How do you plan on working with people that don't necessarily have the best intentions in the state Senate?
Well, obviously, I would, bring up my own kind of bills and bring up my own ideas and show how my agenda would actually work better for the people of Illinois. Obviously, in Illinois, you need more, conservative Republicans in there. I would hopefully, bring along more good people that are willing to do the same thing I am to fight this corruption in Illinois and actually fight for the people. And, it's not going to, let's be realistic. It'd be crazy for us to think that this is just going to take, 2 years. It's going to take the long haul. But if we could start picking it off one by one, getting good candidates in there, the corruption will eventually stop. We have to get Madigan out of there in the House. So it's going to take time. Obviously in the Senate, we're bottoms up with that number also. It's a super majority in both. You have to get good people running, and I will be willing to support if I feel a candidate is good, has the same values as I do, runs on the same policies as I do. I will support them, every which way. I have no problem, telling the voters what I stand for if they don't like it or not. But I know what I stand for, and the agenda that I put forward is going to make the lives of the people of Illinois a lot better, especially than what my opponent's doing.
What would you say are the first priorities for your agenda?
Well, obviously, the first priority that I'm going to be talking about is taxes. We're looking at this progressive income tax, which, they want to make it sound, so glamorous. But we all know after year one, everybody's going to be affected. It started out where, which is wrong in itself, that the wealthy are going to be paying more. But now it's, they're moving all the way down to people that are making $30,000 or more. That's going to affect all the workers in Illinois. I'm going to try fighting that back. And actually, we're at 4.9% right now with flat tax. I'd like to see it go back down to 3% flat tax. People don't realize when there's more money to put back into the economy and we have lower business taxes, that's what grows your economy, not by government swelling up and taking more money from us, because that's not going back into the economy. A lot of the things that they would do with our money, they lie about. It doesn't go into infrastructure. It doesn't go into education. It goes into their own pockets. And that's what these voters have to realize. When you're lowering the taxes, that's the actual money that's going to be going back into our economy. That's what's going to build Illinois. That's what's going to build the businesses. That's what's going to bring the businesses back into Illinois and stop the decline of the population in Illinois. It's simple economics and simple math. And that's what I'm going to be getting out to my voters in terms of that. Other policies that I'm going to be going on is obviously this crazy idea of late-term abortion, infanticide. Okay, I am, and I don't lie to the voters. Okay, I am extremely conservative, pro-life individual. Okay, but I'm also a person that believes in the rule of law. Okay, I believe in the Constitution. There was a law put in place, Roe versus Wade, in 1974, and it allows people to have abortion at 20 weeks. Do I accept it? No, but that is the law. Okay, I will push back and fight against these extreme policies, and that's nothing to do with women's rights. I mean, I agree with women's rights wholeheartedly. I don't agree with Planned Parenthood because most of that stuff does not go for women's rights. It goes for abortion. Let's be realistic. And the majority of people that are affected by abortions are minority communities. You know what I mean? Africans Americans are swayed into abortions. I mean, we could do a lot in terms of that. We could do a lot in terms of adoption. I mean, there's a lot of good people out there. You know what I mean? Yeah, we have people that are teenagers that are getting pregnant and everything, but there's options out there. You know what I mean? And we've seen so many women have come out and say, you know what? 5 years ago, I wish I didn't have that abortion. I would have had a 5-year-old right now. Maybe I could have gave that away to a family that, you know what I mean, is really good, you know, good-hearted family that has it all together, that can't have children. You know what I mean? So I'll be fighting back against these extreme policies of late-term abortion and infanticide. And there's many, many Democrats that didn't even know this policy existed. They didn't even realize that Illinois went this extreme, even more extreme than New York and Virginia in terms of this policy. And, you know what I mean? And I tell them this, they think I'm nuts. I said, you know what? Look it up. Look up this policy and you'll see. And then even, you know, your most moderate, or not even moderate, even your most liberal Democrats are going to say that's not even acceptable. And we have my opponent, you know what I mean? I don't like bad mouthing people, but, you know what I mean? He is allegedly a religious individual, and any person of faith should not accept this. This is, you know what I mean, what infanticide and late-term abortion is, it's murder. And that even is scientifically proven. So if they believe in science, which they don't claim that Republican conservatives do, because I believe in science, they would not deflect on that issue. You know what I mean? It's sickening to even think of. So that's another issue I would be fighting against. Another right I'd be fighting against is the sanctuary state policy. Okay, sanctuary states, not only they affect us economically, fiscally, and socially. You know what I mean? Obviously, fiscally, they affect the minority communities the most. You know what I mean? We have low skilled, we have low wages going to illegals when they could be going to legal citizens. You know what I mean? Hispanic Americans, African Americans in these communities that are not working. These kind of jobs could be going to them, and wages are growing right now. They could be getting these jobs. You know what I mean? Instead of being on welfare, collecting on the welfare system, they could be getting these good jobs. I mean, so, and also in terms of, you know what I mean, law enforcement, I said that I was a police officer in states that have sanctuary state policies. I mean, we as local law enforcement officers are not even able to work with ICE in terms of, you know what I mean, I'm talking about horrific criminals. I'm not talking about, you know what I mean, your family members that are just trying to cross over or come from other countries for work purposes. I mean, I'm talking about horrific criminals. I'm talking about rapists, murderers, human traffickers, drug kingpins, cartel members. These people are being, you know what I mean, provided sanctuary and safety in our states, which is asinine. I mean, they're getting locked up for crimes, and you can't hold them, you know what I mean, because of the sanctuary city policies and state policies. Yeah, we're not as extreme. You know, Rauner, if you remember, signed a minimal sanctuary state bill, but Pritzker's taking this even further. He's going even further in his progressive agenda. So that's a big one I'm going to be fighting against. I'm going to fight for the rights of the First Amendment rights for people, because I believe too many conservatives are not having their voice heard. We see it right now, even with these protests. There's been many peaceful protests out there, and people that are protesting the right things. They're not being violent. They're protesting to get back to work and have their freedoms. They want their religious freedoms back. They want to go back to work. I believe peaceful protests on any side of the aisle is acceptable. But I don't mean when you have Antifa members that are fighting police.
Well, we're breaking up. There we go. We're back. You were talking about
Hello?
Antifa. Can you hear me? You're talking about Antifa
Antifa,
protesters.
yeah. Antifa protesters, they're causing havoc. They're fighting with police. They're not protesting for the right things. They're protesting against our government. They're protesting against America. They're actually protesting against what our founding fathers and all those great people that fought in the revolution, for our rights, for our freedom. That's what they're fighting against that. They're fighting for their socialist beliefs of more government, big government in their lives. They're fighting, against our pro-military, pro-law enforcement. So those individuals that are, doing that, should not be heard. I don't believe, when you cause havoc or when you cause crime or terrorize neighborhoods or terrorize protests, you should not be heard. That's against the law. So I'm totally in agreement for First Amendment rights on all sides of the aisle when it's peaceful. And you're trying to make a point. I agree with it totally. And the last thing, I'm for term limits, obviously. Personally, me, I get a pension from the police. I would not be taking a pension if I was a state senator. I don't feel that, government jobs like that. I feel that if you get into government, you worked your life already. You shouldn't be going into government and have no life experiences, which many politicians do. Me, I've been a police officer. I've worked in factories. I've worked as a laborer. I've done things in life and I've had life experiences that are going to I would bring that with me to Springfield. Many of our politicians are given these jobs early on in life with no work experience at all. So me personally, I wouldn't be taking a pension if I became a senator. I'd be fighting for term limits. And the last thing that I'd be fighting for, that our Second Amendment rights, are protected. In this state, we've gone crazy with our Second Amendment rights. I agree totally with people that, felons, people that are mentally unstable should not be allowed to carry guns, should not have a FOID card, should not be having a carry and conceal. I totally agree with that. And I totally agree with the waiting period to register guns and where guns should, who the hands are going into of gun holders. But I'm going to fight on every way for our Second Amendment rights, because that's the rights that were implemented by our founding fathers, and that's the only way that we as citizens could protect ourselves against rogue governments. That's just simple facts. If they declare a martial law, how do you protect yourself as citizens? You protect yourself by, having the right to bear arms. And that's in our Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist when it comes to all of that, basically everything. I believe the Constitution should be preserved. I don't think they should try watering it down and taking away little nuances of the Constitution to benefit their socialist, leftist ideology.
So what sort of legislative protections would you propose to strengthen the First and Second Amendment?
Well, First Amendment, I would promote legislation that's going to protect people that are speaking on in terms of universities. We see all across America in liberal cities, we have the people, conservative thought, think tanks. They're being pushed out of universities, pushed out of assembling and rallies and everything else. I would protect their rights, when they go to these universities, when they have their rallies, if they're protesting, to have that preserved. And the police, obviously law enforcement would protect them, those rights. Whatever it needs to be where people are allowed to get their message across should be done. They shouldn't have to worry about their lives. They shouldn't have to worry about going into a university that they're going to be attacked by students or radicals that don't like what they have to say. So I would implement, strict punishment on people that are going to try and cause harm to people that are just trying to get their First Amendment rights out there. We don't have enough of that because, let's be realistic. We see it all across America. We see it in Seattle. We see it in Chicago. We see it in LA, San Francisco, Michigan, anywhere these big universities are. We see the fear that people have when they're trying to speak. We see that they're being, brought down where they can't even speak. And I believe that has to be protected. People that are violating somebody's rights should be held accountable. They should do jail time. If we want to jail people for trying to open up a hair salon, or a man that is taking his son out fishing, or a man that is playing basketball with his son at a park and they're fined. We have to have extreme measures on people that are trying to interrupt people's, First Amendment rights. They should be punished. And I believe in these liberal cities, and it's not the fault of police. I believe it's the fault of management, mayors that are not telling these police officers protect these individuals. But when it comes to radical ideas, you have these mayors that are saying, don't do anything to them. Let them do what they have to do. Let them protest. Even if there's crime involved. That's the sad thing with this society. And that's what legislators, have to do on the local and state level. And our Democrats aren't doing that. They do not care. Furthermore, what I feel with extreme leftist Democrats, they don't care about human life at all. If they don't care about the sanctity of life of a baby or of a nursing home patient that is the most vulnerable, you see the antics of these rogue governors and not putting strict measures in place in these nursing homes to allow individuals that had COVID to be placed back into nursing homes where people that don't have COVID or are even comparable or even compromised. Their immune systems are compromised to get this. You see what they're doing. It just shows the lack of care of human life.
Yeah, they turned them away from empty facilities.
They turned them away. Yeah, we had the
Javits Center.
Yeah, the Javits Center in New York. We had the McCormick Place in Chicago where only 29 people were held. And I'm not saying that all Democrats have this. The problem is that when you tote the line for the leftist Democrat Party, you're going to vote on this. So even if your agenda and your morals aren't this way, I'd rather you come out and say, yeah, I am for this. My morals are this is not my morals. I'm going to either vote against it, which is these bad policies, or, you're as.
Uh-oh. And we will be back very soon. Anthony, you were in, and now you're. There we go. Now we're back. Anthony, here, it's gonna take some time for me to take up your audio. And we're back. There we go.
We all good?
Now
all
I
right.
can hear you. You can hear me.
Okay.
We were you left off at nursing homes and how Democrats don't necessarily care about the sanctity of life, but that's the policies.
Yeah, and that's just the point I'm trying to make. And I'm not saying all Democrats, but I feel that if you really feel for something, it shouldn't matter for you to stay in power or about your money. Do the right thing. And me, I'm not going to change whatever I say or whatever I plan on doing. I'm not going to change that for anybody. I'm not going to tote any line for anybody. I'm my own individual. And if I'm the only one fighting for those policies, I'll stand in line and just fight whatever I have to, because that's my beliefs. And that's just, that's just morals that we have. Protecting the most vulnerable, protecting our elderly, protecting the nursing home, the sick that are in the nursing home. They're having a hard enough time right now, with the comorbidities that they have fighting. There's several people with pneumonia, cancer, heart condition, and other illnesses. They don't need to be compromised even more, and try to fight this. Because we know, let's be realistic, a lot of them wouldn't be able to fight this. So that's just saying, let's kill our older community for numbers purposes or for population decline. That's not the way it works. Or to get their Social Security so they can't benefit from that. It's sad. And people have to start speaking out about that. People have to be passionate about it and say, you know what, I'm going to protect everybody. They're definitely protecting the criminals. They're releasing criminals, horrific criminals that are murderers and rapists from jail. So their lives are worth more than compromised individual in the nursing homes that are in there for their no choice to own. And I'm saying all lives matter. Obviously we protect our prisoners in jail. That's why they're there. We give them meals, we protect them. But you know what? It's about time we start protecting our elderly, our seniors. So let's start protecting everybody of every community. Let's worry about white, black, Hispanic, whatever your choice of sex is. We have to protect everybody in society. Not one should be left out. And that's what I would be fighting for.
Absolutely. The nursing home system has been a mess even before COVID. What suggestions do you have to how to fix the healthcare system, especially for the elderly and most vulnerable, which has just been a mess? Republicans haven't been able to crack it, or Democrats. So what are your
Well, first of all, I had this question brought up to me, obviously, in terms of the nursing homes when you have a pandemic like this, okay? We built this McCormick place. Okay, we didn't have to build something this extreme on taxpayer money. We could have built, little shelter areas. We could have built, little centers where, your numbers in terms of COVID were not that astronomical. We could have built little trailer areas close to the nursing home in these areas, in parking lot areas where doctors could be working, and we could, obviously patients could be watched 24 hours a day. It couldn't be that, it's not that extreme. They could have been built smaller in terms of bed sizes, and you could have had those for your most vulnerable. You could have had COVID patients in there, and then you could have had your nurses that were working with those COVID patients, knowing what they were dealing with, to be highly protected. So their lives wouldn't be compromised. They could have had special equipment, which the federal government is trying to do for those nurses, and they would know specifically that they're dealing with COVID patients. And we'd have to keep them quarantined for 14 days. We've seen in the McCormick place, we were letting patients out after 7 days. That's not the way it works. We're telling people to lock themselves down, people that don't have comorbidities, don't have a weak immune system, to lock themselves down indefinitely, but we're going to allow, nursing home patients to stay in an area, isolated for 7 days and then release them. What sense does that make? First of all, you put plans in place for pandemics of this nature, where you're most highly compromised, but you have policies for that. That should have been the first thing. These individuals look like that they can't even run a preschool, let alone a state or any kind of government. We should have had that. We should have had plans for, patients that are getting cancer treatment or dialysis treatment. We see in where I'm at in North Park Township, we had a dialysis center that couldn't even run properly for COVID patients. And I came up with the idea, you have a big area that for dialysis patients. Why can't you quarter off part of that building by just putting a wall up, a little drywall, and having those most compromised patients going there instead of having to go to Buffalo Grove or into the city and Polk Street? Some of those people don't even have transportation, can't get to those locations. What are you going to do for them? If they don't have transportation, so they're not going to get their dialysis. We know that people, they don't get their dialysis for 2-3 days. They could die. So do we want to allow people just to die when you could do a simple solution in these facilities like dialysis center? Put up a wall, put a quarter of the patients that have the COVID-19 sectioned off in there, and keep your regular patients that don't have that in the area. It's simple. It's just simple plans that these individuals, I don't know if it's lack of common sense, lack of just thinking outside the box, or just that they don't care about anybody. But any which way you look at it, it's sad. It's just,
and it seems like it's lack of care. If you ask,
it's lack of care, yes. Because I wouldn't want to think that just simple measures like this, that if they're running our government, that they can't even think of ideas like this. I really wouldn't want to think that, because that you would know that you're really, we know the state is run poorly, and it's sad, but you just wouldn't want to think that simple solutions like that, like what I said with these nursing facilities, put up a little trailer homes near these facilities in a parking lot area, put 10, 15 patients in there. At one time, you're not going to have that many people or patients that have had this COVID. And obviously, those patients in a nursing home, we should be testing them. Testing is not going to hurt them. By giving them an antibody test. Those are the ones. Those public safety nurses and doctors should be the first ones that are tested with that, and test them if they have the COVID. It's a very simple strategy which we're not implementing. You know what I mean? The governor, all the way down into the House, the state, the Senate. I mean, these people could have been speaking out saying, you know what, we have to get this under control, and we're not. It is the lack of care, and it more than the lack of care, I think it's for their agenda to show that there's high numbers, but the high numbers are the high mortality rates are in the nursing homes. You know what I mean? Because even doctors are coming out extreme. You know what I mean? They're coming out and saying this is going to be 0.01 to 0.05. We don't shut down an economy. We don't shut down states, governments, and the country because of a severe flu. We just don't. Because with this, you're even seeing more people committing suicide. You're seeing people's marriages go astray. You're seeing people lose their families, jobs, and everything else. And at the end of the day, this is going to be worse than this COVID-19 that was plagued on us.
I mean, a lot. I mean, we'll see at the end of the day, but like the numbers may be on your side there. Do you think we should be arresting people that defy the lockdown order?
I think that's asinine. You know what I mean? You know, you know what? People been following the rules. If you want to go fishing at a pond, you want to go in a park and throw a ball around, you want to play a little basketball, you know what I mean? When I don't mean have 40, 50 people out on a basketball court. And it hasn't been that great of weather to see that anyway. But I don't think we should, you know, I mean, if you're going to do anything like in Dallas, like that rogue judge did to that poor woman, you don't arrest them and put them in jail for 7 days. We're not doing that to criminals. You're letting criminals out. You're going to put a woman that just wants to open up her salon, maybe fine her. You know, I mean, that's the extreme measures. Fine them $50, $100. Okay, you want money from people, put money back into your state that way. Okay, fine them, a ticket them. I mean, you're gonna do asinine, rogue dictatorship type of policies as arresting people for wanting to go back to work or to have their civil liberties defied. You're gonna arrest people for that? That's sick. That's what communist countries do. We don't.
It puts police officers at risk too.
And it puts police officers at risk. Do you really want to be fighting with somebody that's out there fishing with their son, or fighting with somebody that's trying to open up a business? You will look ridiculous. And if I seen a police officer doing that, I would think that they were ridiculous. Because me personally, if somebody told me to do that, I would not be arresting somebody. You know what I mean? Write me up, do what you have to do. I would not be arresting somebody for wanting to go back to work. That's sick. That's nuts. I mean, especially when we're not locking up criminals on the street. Are we getting big drug arrests right now? Are we going after a gang members right now? Are we locking them up? No, we're not. And the numbers are showing that we're not doing that across the board. I mean, like, hello?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Anthony.
Yeah,
Anthony, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I have many friends that, you know what I mean, that are police officers. Nobody's doing anything productive in terms of arresting people. You know what I mean? Administrations are telling us, you know, not to go extremes unless it is necessary to arrest somebody. And that's in, you know what I mean, cases, you know, somebody robbing somebody, domestic battery, cases of that nature. But just to lock somebody up because they're trying to go to work, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I agree. What was I going to say? Dude, there's just so much. Okay, so I want to go back to something you said like way back when you were talking about how you wouldn't accept a pension if you became a state senator. Do you propose rolling back some of the crazier rules like double dipping, triple dipping, or pension spiking?
I definitely am. I'm for that because me, you know, I mean, how long are we gonna go with this before, you know, I mean, before it all crumbles? I mean, we need to save pensions for everybody. You know, obviously, you know, I mean, I pay a high amount into my pension. I pay almost 10%. You know what I mean, which is all well and fair. You know what I mean, if you have a 401k to make money in the future, you're gonna have to put money into that. Totally agree with that. But I think pensions should be capped off. You know what I mean, I think they should be capped off at $150,000, $175,000. I don't agree with people that are making $500,000 a year thinking they're going to get 80% of that pension. There's no way possible. You know what I mean? Life expectancy is a lot longer, and I hope everybody lives to 100. I mean, say you retire at 55, 60. Are you going to be collecting a pension, a $500,000 pension at 80 or 75% for 30 years? It's ridiculous. So I You know what I mean? I'm all for saving people's pensions. Yeah, because I want to save mine. I mean, you put money into that. I want to save people's Social Security. I'd like to see Social Security be raised, but the House Democrats are fighting that. I mean, we need, systems like that in place. I mean, those were some of the good things FDR actually put into place, Social Security, when pensions came around, Medicare, but the whole Medicaid and the whole double dipping, triple dipping for pensions, making astronomical amounts on taxpayer dollars, I would definitely roll back. And I've told that to people who've asked me, what do you think about that? I says, it's not fair. It's not fair to taxpayers. It's not fair to a taxpayer that's paying a Chicago teacher's pension that has no kids going to Chicago public school system.
Mm-hmm. Or a postman who's getting a $30,000 pension compared to an administrator who's getting $500.
Exactly. All well and good teachers get their pensions. I wish that Chicago would adopt some more rules. The CTU, they only pay 2% into their pension. I don't think that's fair. We had for years that they weren't paying anything into their pension. I believe in fairness for everybody across the board. If it's teachers, if it's firemen, if it's police officer, if it's for union labor, I think everybody should have a fair pay into it. You try to, I'm the union president. I try to get the best contract for the people that are under me. But you know what? I believe fairness too. I don't believe taxpayers should be burdened with paying such high pensions for people either. I believe in fairness. And a lot of people agree with that. A lot of union workers, a lot of people that collect pensions say, no, it's not right to be collecting 2, 3, 4 pensions. You're just draining the system. And we have to look 20, 30 years down the road. When that money, if it's not there, we'll all be in a terrible situation. We're looking at it right now. We see what Pritzker's trying to do. He's trying to bankrupt this state to no avail. He's going to try to keep this closed as long as possible. What do these people think? They're not going to try going after your pensions? My pension was consolidated now. All our suburban police departments, fire departments, even big towns like Naperville, Elgin, we were all consolidated into one. The state controls our money now. We could be totally vested and have so much money in our pension fund, but when the state takes over control, they could say, you know what, we don't have money now. Yeah, they have to open the books. Yeah, there's hoops that they have to jump through, but just the mere possibility of thinking there's people that have a year, 2 years left before they're retiring, and they can't do anything with a 401k, to think that, oh my God, pensions are ready to go bottoms up. It's not fair. So I would fight for pensions all day long, but astronomical 2 and 3 pensions over the amount that I stated of 150, 175,000, I don't agree with. I don't think, I think if you're making 500,000, I think you should be saving that a lot of that money while you're working, and then you have a decent 150 and $175,000 pension, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's a very decent a restriction a lot of people would agree to. So you've had very nuanced views in this interview, where you're kind of taking bits, like good ideas from all over, and it's whatever works, whatever fair, not really sticking to a party line. Why do you think so many people are so like black and white and extreme, like on issues these days?
I think people are black and white because they don't know much about government. They don't try to look at policies that were implemented. They stick to whatever their party platform is. Like I said, I'm a total conservative. I believe in the middle class. I believe in fighting for people's rights. And I think our president is on that line, along that line also, just like the great President Reagan was. I follow common sense ideas, stuff that are going to benefit the middle class, the working class people. You know what I mean? And I believe in, even the wealthy, business, the business tax the way it is on the federal aspect. I totally agree with that. I believe that, the only way businesses are going to survive is with low taxes to employ people. That's common sense. The less taxes you're going to be paying, 15% is perfect where we're at on the federal end right now. I believe you could employ more people. More people are going to be working, more money going into your economy, less people on welfare. Get the unemployment rate down. Under Obama, we had the highest astronomical unemployment rates. African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Chinese Americans, women. And we cut that more than in half under President Trump policy. Those work. People are at work. People are making money. When you're put on government aid, you're a slave of the government. You're forced to think and vote the way they want. And let's be realistic. What is government aid? What does it do good for you? You You value less things. You know what I mean? You know, when you're a working individual, you have more drive, I believe. I mean, those are my opinions. You know, you're out, you're in the workforce, you're providing for your family, and it's all on your own back. It's not on the backs of government giving you something. I mean, nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody should want to feel like they're a slave of the government. People should want to be working, providing for their families, providing for themselves, you know, more or less. I mean, I'm totally against all that. And, you know what I mean? I've been against that, you know what I mean, from the first time I voted. My agenda, my mindset has never changed from the age of 18. I've always had these policies. I've always had these thoughts. And I mean, I mean, that's why I could speak so passionately about it, because I'm not going to lie to my voters. I'm going to tell them exactly if they like it or not. That's me. You know what I mean? If you like what I have to offer, you know what I mean, I hope you support me, but I'm going to be passionate enough to be fighting for you when I'm in Springfield. That's all. You know what I mean?
No talking out of both sides of the mouth.
Never. That's why I don't need, I'm not scripted with anything I do, because what I say, it comes from the heart. It comes from what I believe in, and it comes from the passion in me. I mean, I never need to be scripted. I don't need to be scripted at all.
One thing that hasn't been publicized about your race that I think is remarkable and something you don't really talk about, and I don't blame you for, is your leukemia diagnosis during the race.
Yes.
If you want to speak to, I mean, I just think that's just insanely inspiring.
Well, I was diagnosed in August. I had it pretty bad in August. You know what I mean? I was basically on my deathbed. I have a strong, you know what I mean? I've always been a strong religious person. You know what I mean? I've become, you know what I mean, closer to the Lord through all this. I've always had a great family. I've had good friends around me, good core friends. And I'm a fighter. You know what I mean? I've been in sports my whole life. I fought my whole life for things to better myself and to get things in life. I never had anything given to me. And with my leukemia, you know what I mean, I brought that to it. I mean, I relapsed back in January, and now I'm in complete molecular remission, which means I'm doing very well. I mean, and I've never been this close to the Lord as I am right now. You know what I mean? I'm so close because it was Him allowing my doctors with the you know what I mean, with my great doctors that I have and the great nurses. You know what I mean? I love these people that had helped me get well, but you know what I mean, none of this could have been done, you know what I mean, without the Lord in my life. And you know what I mean, I'm very passionate about this, and I say after this, you know what I mean, I'm going to go to homes. I'm going to do whatever I can for leukemia patients. You know what I mean, I see little kids dying of this. I see adults, and it's sad. I mean, and me, I never give up anything. I'm a very strong physically and mentally individual. I mean, I never give up at anything. So, you know what I mean, yeah, it's been a rough road, but I was able to deal with it a lot better than a lot of other people are. So, you know what I mean, with that, you know what I mean, with that being said, you know, I'm not going to try publicizing that much. Yeah, I fought leukemia. It is, you know, most people would not have ran this race. And I've been told to a lot of people, you're crazy. You're going through this. I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? I fought this, and I'm going to continue to fight this the rest of my life. And I'm going to live a long life. I know that. I mean, I have a lot of fight in me. I don't let anything take me down. You know what I mean? And like I said, anything I do in life, I do with passion. And when I become a state senator, I'll be taking that same approach and same mindset down to Springfield. I'll be fighting for people just like I fought for my life. I mean, I'll be fighting for the voters. I'll be fighting for the working class people. And I don't care what political aisle, if you could hate me, but I'm going to work for you. I'm going to work for Republicans, Democrats, and independents. You don't have to vote for me, but you could just know that and rest assured that I will be fighting for you when I'm there.
Wow, is that missing from the General Assembly? Humility, honesty, and passion for the people. So thank you for that. And kind of bringing it, you were talking about faith, and one of the things that's lacking right now is people don't have access to the churches, synagogues, mosques because of the lockdown order. So what's your advice for people to connect with God, to that power source in a time like this where they literally can't?
You know what I always say is you don't need a church or a pastor or a priest to be close to God. Okay, you could be close to God just in your home. You know what I mean? Praying by yourself. You know what I mean? don't have to be, many people, believe that church is not always the answer. I love going to church. I love you know what I mean?
So it's kind of like this Wi-Fi. It's not like this Wi-Fi. You can connect anywhere. Got a little.
But all the things I do so much easier is, I'll go ahead. So,
Anthony?
hello?
Hey, now we're back. You left
Okay.
off. You were talking about how church isn't necessarily necessary to connect to God.
Yeah, you know what? What we do is me and I take my family. We go to my old high school, Notre Dame High School, and they have a grotto there. They have many candles that you can light. We say our prayers there. We spend about a half hour lighting candles and just praying to the Lord right there at a grotto setting. Like I said, you don't need a priest or a pastor. Obviously having communion given to you and hearing the word of the Lord in the sermon. Those are great. But in times like this, when they're not opening churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, you could still have your religious faith. I have a lot of family members that are buried in Hillside at Queen of Heaven in Mount Carmel. There's a cross there. It's a very holy, very holy area. And I'll pray in front of the Lord right there. You don't need to, I'd love to be going to churches, but I still have my faith, every day of my life, and whatever I can do to pray or be outside in an area like that where it's very holy, I will pray at. I would tell many people, go to the grotto at Notre Dame High School. Light a candle, for this pandemic to be done with. Light a candle for your family members and everybody to stay healthy. Light a candle for this country to come back economically. Do the things like that. That's what I'm doing, and I'm keeping my faith that way.
Absolutely. Well, we're running low on time. Thank you so much. Any parting words for either words of inspiration or ways people can help out the campaign, or both?
Ways of inspiration. What I tell people is, get out, enjoy your life. Not every day is guaranteed for anybody. Enjoy your life, enjoy your family. Let's get back to work. Let's fight to open up the state of Illinois, peacefully. I don't mean barbarically, I mean peacefully. Let's fight to open up the state. Let's get on with our lives. Let's move on. Let's get President Trump reelected in November. Let's take back the House. Let's get me elected and all good conservative-minded individuals so we could fight in the state of Illinois. And God bless everybody. God bless you all that are listening to me. God bless the people of the state of Illinois. And God bless this great free country that we live in, that we call the United States of America.
Thank you so much, Anthony. And Anthony Beckman for Senate, everybody, if you live in the 10th
Thank you very much, buddy. Thank you. And you have a great day. Be safe, and God bless you.
You too.